And dirty.
Good evening.
No, I think the drive home.
All right. No, the contractor for the Belsky site. You already got paid. That's right. If you drive over it, that floor drain down there, never got touched. This way there's about 45 feet of brand new island. And then from the floor drain pond, about 12 feet, brand new island. If they didn't do anything for big problem, that drain move, your shock absorber hits the bottom going through it. And one day, I thought, the traffic on the right has to merge, see? And when I hit that, and I bounced, my pickup is empty in the back, so I thought the back end was gonna fly over and sideswipe somebody, but nobody was there, so I was like, but it was still never got touched. This is on the new grid. It looks nice, but they didn't touch that bottle, they did. They should put you on the inspection. I got a big nose. Brand new side drains, swim drains. Just like when they didn't touch. Seems odd. Yeah. Then over to that side there where the water goes out, looks like it's about a third full of sand, they never cleaned that out. So, I don't mention that. Maybe they haven't done the final lot. They were not supposed to be using it yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using it for about a month. Yeah, I started opening it. And I kept myself trying to go on the detour around. I said, oh, I'm gonna make the shortcut. But yeah, it's. I was going about a year and 8 for it. Yeah, he was originally supposed to be done like last November. Okay. That's kind of what I thought. Folks.
Aaron is my youngest brother's daughter. Yes, but I have women's.
Her first two rounds, and then went in on her. Well, I missed it. I'll tell you, I had some issues here 3 weeks ago, and I spent the night in the hospital, so I was so they said, you can't give us a little bit time yet. My sodium level dropped. Dangerous level. I'm low enough to get hospital.
Anything over 5
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you all for being here this evening. Time is 6:30. We're going to go ahead and open up public comment. Views expressed by individuals during public comment do not necessarily reflect the views of the city of Fremont and have not been been verified for accuracy by the city. As a reminder, city council and staff are not permitted to respond to comments or questions during the public comment period in accordance with Fremont Municipal Code, section section 2-103. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, shall not contain items included on this evening's agenda. If you are here and wish to speak, you can please come up front and sign in. There's also comment cards in the back. And we'll go ahead and open this up with Larry Marvin.
Good evening. My name is Larry Marvin, 1945 Morningside Road, apartment 124. And thank you for getting the Bell Street open again. And my question is, why didn't you replace the 9th storm drain on the southeast part of Bell Street Viaduct? Now you put 8 brand new storm drains going over the thing. And when you come over going south, you replace the middle, about 25 feet of the center island. And then from this 9th storm drain down to the end, you replaced all that for about 12 feet. But you didn't replace the 9th storm one right there. And when I drive down and hit that storm drain, that's a floor drain because it's got the grates in it, my motor holds the front of the pickup down, but the back end isn't, it's empty, and it gives me the false impression that I'm gonna go flying sideways because you're kind of on a curve there. And the people on the right side lane, they have to merge to my lane. And so you get right down there and it's kind of 2.5 lanes or whatever you want to call it, but I don't like the deal there. So I noticed that you installed the 8 new, but you didn't replace the 9th one. Okay, before you closed the viaduct, this storm drain shock was the same as it is today. The front shock absorber bangs clear to the bottom of the frame, and then the back bank bounces too, but it's almost wants to throw me to the side. And so if you drive over that, make sure you hit that metal floor drain and you'll see what I'm talking about. Did you badly destroy the 9th storm drain conduit out of there? Because if you came right up to it with putting that brand new center island in, so did you just destroy the drain underneath there and then cover it up? That's a question that I have for you. The first time I drove over this viaduct, my pickup bounced in that hole, and psychologically I thought I was going to sideswipe a merging vehicle, but there was nobody there because the right lane merges. Yesterday I thought you had removed some of the sharp edge coming out of that pothole. So today I drove through the pothole today and I don't think you touched it, you know. So it was false impression looking at it. I thought that you had cut that edge out, you know, on the bottom side of the floor drain, but I bounced today and it hit the shock absorber hit the bottom. So you didn't do anything, but I did think you did something. And so that was it today. So thank you for working on it. And thank you for opening it up again, even though you didn't fix what I wanted fixed.
Brad Yerger.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brad Yerger, 2318 East 5th Street. I'm here tonight to visit a topic that I discussed with you about a month ago at the end of the month meeting in June. Tonight, I'd like to bring a little more specificity and let you know that I'm here not only on behalf of myself, I'm here on behalf of several others that live along the 5th Street ditch. And if you haven't been communicated directly by some of those people, I can assure you, you likely will be, but I did tell them I would come tonight and speak on this. I have these questions for you relative to Fremont Municipal Code Section 4-502, which, by the way, I left something for you instead of in your mailbox that you have in case you want to refer to it. Section 4-502 says it's the duty of every owner of real estate to cut and clear such real estate. Is the city of Fremont an owner of real estate in this community? I believe it is. It says in that particular code, 4-502, that vegetation shall be cut so as to not exceed more than 12 inches above the ground. I can assure you with the pictures that I have provided you, there are plenty of vegetations on public right-of-way and in the Fifth Street ditch that are more than 12 inches. Some are more than 6 or 8 feet tall that have not been cut. They're now impeding the waterway. And I believe that the police department and the CSOs should, quite honestly, based on city code, be rendering the city of Fremont a ticket, just as they would any other public citizen for not cutting and maintaining their weeds. You would do it to a citizen. I've seen and witnessed it here in town. You have cut the weeds, charged them a fee for the work that you have done on clearing vegetation off of lots elsewhere in the city. The fact that the city owes these lots, you shouldn't get an exemption. I would specifically draw your attention to the Fifth Street ditch pictures that I've given you, where the weeds are growing taller by probably 2 feet out of the ditch or blocks. The waterway is a very narrow channel now. In case of heavy rains and heavy storms, that waterway is not going to function as it should because of the impediments that are inside the ditch. And for those that are along Claremar, which Councilman in the past, Mr. Gibson had requested on numerous occasions that the walkways and the ditch along Claremar be cleared and cut. There are pictures of that as well. Again, the weeds exceed the 12 inches that the city is allowing residents to have their weeds. And I admonish you, please do the same for your own property that you would request and ticket citizens for. It's the least that we can do. If we don't do something about the weed problem in the Fifth Street ditch, there's going to be a flooding problem waiting to happen because the channel is quite narrow, goes all the way down and it continues down Luther. So I implore you to please take a look at that and render it as quickly as possible a solution. Thank you.
So you'll have an opportunity to speak on your agenda item. Yep, so. Well, if you did just enter, we are in open public comment, and so we'll be up until 7 o'clock. Any member of the public can speak on any item that's not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. If you are here to speak on an agenda item, you will have that opportunity when we get to the agenda. So. Okay, the time is 7 o'clock. We'll close public comment and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting and call it to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. This time we'll have roll call. Next is mayor's comments. I just would like to recognize one July Service Award this evening. Douglas Depew. Douglas has been with the Department of Utilities since 2019 as a stores associate and has been with the city for 5 years. So we really appreciate Douglas. He's not able to make it tonight, but thank you for his service to our community. We'll go ahead and move on to the agenda. Motion to adopt the current agenda for the July 30th, 2024 regular meeting. Councilman Jensen.
I'd like to ask that we remove item number 21 as the application for that special event was withdrawn by the applicant.
Okay. There any other changes to the agenda, Councilwoman Ganem?
No changes, no other changes.
All right. I would make a motion to approve the agenda with withdrawing item 21. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move we approve the agenda with removal of item 21.
Okay. Councilman Sukram. Okay, cast your votes on the agenda. Move on to public hearings. Item 2 is resolution 2024-174, recommending approval of a Class D liquor license application for Husky Food No. 3 LLC, doing business as Pup and Snuff at 515 North Broad Street. Staff report.
Item was published in the Fremont Tribune on July 24. There are reports, support documents from police and the planning department recommend approval.
Questions for staff on this item? I'll now open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak on this?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. Robert Futhy, Fraser Stryker Law Firm, 500 Energy Plaza in Omaha. I have with me our owner and manager, Rashad Khan. I have a few comments and happy to answer any questions with regard to the store. This is Mr. Khan's fourth location in the state of Nebraska. He previously operated a number of similar establishments in Iowa, and he and his family decided to move to Nebraska. So there's 2 locations in Columbus, 1 in Blair, and the Fremont location's the 4th. The other 3 locations have received local approval already on their liquor licenses as well. As far as the business, it's going to be a small convenience store, tobacco products, alcohol, and some small groceries as well. So with that, if there's any questions the council has for myself or Mr. Khan, happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Khan, for being here. Are there any questions? Councilman Horner?
No, Mr. Mayor, if there are no other questions from council, I would like to make a motion that we accept. Oh, sorry.
Are there any questions for the applicant at this point? Councilman Jensen?
Just one, as I understand, reading through the tour, there will also be those gaming machines there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Thank you. I'll now continue the public comment period. Are there anybody else here to speak on this item? Please come forward, state your name and address, please.
My name is Malini Jailik, and I own a business on 521 North Broad Street. Cigarette and snack outlet. Okay, so this business that's opening up, it's literally opening up 2 doors next to myself. I know there's no law against that. However, when I opened about almost 30 years ago, and I was in front of the board for the tobacco license and also my beer license, it was implied by yourselves that this industry is really saturated. Just around me in a span of 3 blocks, there's probably a bunch of smoke shops, stroke head shops, So this business, my business is 90% tobacco related. These others that are showing up are more geared towards carrying the THC product, which today is still illegal in the state of Nebraska. So I asked the council to consider the negative impacts that this new business will have on Fremont community and on the other, establishments and businesses that have been working hard and earned a rapport and respect over this time period, longevity. So I'm hoping you consider that we don't keep putting up these so-called head shops into our community. There you go.
Thank you.
Do you have questions for me?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments in regards to this application from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Councilman Vaughn.
I do want to just state for the record, at what point do we become saturated in this particular market? It seems to be that there's more and more of these types of shops popping up, and that's a free market capitalist society at work. But at some point, we may need to consider, how many in totality, although I can't find any reason to deny this one.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I'd echo what Councilman Vaughn said, that, at some point we're gonna reach a saturation point, particularly with the gaming machines. It's this was brought to me before about a month ago, particularly about the gaming machines. How come we're allowing these in? We make the Keno get licensed in the city. Well, my understanding was that now specific to Nebraska state statute, the machines are not, or we cannot regulate them at all. Which is, I don't know whose pocket got greased to make that happen, but that's I think that's really unfortunate that we put these restrictions on the Keno, but we're doing nothing about the gaming machines coming in. Again, there's really no real reason to deny this, but we are reaching a point of saturation.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, just wonder if I can get some legal clarification. I think we've all got opinions on this one, and I know our state attorney general has weighed in and said that he objects to marijuana because it's still an illegal substance. Travis, do we have any within, and I realize there's business and there's competition and there are things that we'd like and don't like, but are there any legal parameters that we have here that give us authority as council?
As far as the regulation of these types of shops, there has been some discussion in the unicameral about giving municipalities authority to give out so many licenses. With any tobacco operation, you have to have license that's processing and then approved. As far as for tonight, this liquor license application, there would be no applicable rule that the council could deny it. It's saturated the health safety culture. But we're looking into how either we can advocate the unicameral to give municipality more authority, or we can use what we have now to try to limit the amounts to the effective council.
So we have a legal authority, for example, to say we were to set an arbitrary number, and I realize it won't have any bearing on tonight, but do we have the legal authority to set limits on the numbers of businesses, the types of businesses can be set within Fremont?
Everything I've to, we haven't found that, operating statute to do that, but we are looking at.
So the statute, you haven't found the statute that says we have limits or that we don't have limits? Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilman Horner.
Yeah, well, first I'll apologize for jumping the gun on the previous time. The other thing I would like to point out, listening to the discussion, is I would like to draw the attention, I think Travis kind of said it, but what's before us is a liquor license and it's nothing else. I don't think we can start adding things and items to the agenda that aren't here. So we're talking about a liquor license. So.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the council on this? If not, I would take a motion. Councilman Horner.
Now, I would like to make the motion that we adopt resolution 2024-174, approving the Class D liquor license for the applicant.
Okay, is there a second? Councilman Dinkins.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Mayor.
Okay, moving on to item number 3 is resolution 2024-175, recommending the approval of a Class I liquor license application for Set LLC doing business as the Sidner Ice Arena at 1558 East Military Avenue. Staff report.
This item also was supporting documents and recommend approval of the application at the answer question.
Okay. Questions for staff about this application? Okay, seeing none, I will open the public hearing.
Steve Ray, 1445 North Irving Street, Fremont. Well, I'd ask you to think about this. I realize you're not really approving the license, but you can recommend. I don't think they need liquor at the Y. I know it's not the Y. However, they have a lot of young kids, and I read through that thing and I didn't see where it said if they were going to have it available all the time or just at special events. And if it's just at special events, even there's going to be at tournaments like Fremont Flyers play there, younger children, grandchildren. I went to several hockey games. You got little children running around. I'm getting tired of all this. Well, we got to have liquor to make any money. We got to do this. It's a kids oriented thing originally. And I don't think just because the Y's clear out of it, they're just not managing it. It doesn't fit very well with what they've done over the years for how they run their business and their Y. I think there's better things they can do. How can you stand there and say, we don't want to see our youth drinking, we don't want to do this. Then you turn right around and put it everywhere that they're at and doing this. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like when Mr. Vaughn said, when Bergen wanted to have that at the homecoming, we tell them, you don't want kids out drinking, you want to do this. And then the adults all think they got to have alcohol where they go. What kind of example does that set? And especially, and people are still going to think of it as being the Y down there, even though they're not, that it's being leased out to this other company. And I understand it took a lot of money to do what they've done. Almost all the hockey games I went to, there was no admission. Maybe they should charge a little admission. And I don't know about what Midland and them do, but from the point of just having so many young kids and stuff, if they're going to have alcohol around at all times, I think you ought to at least recommend that they don't get it. That don't mean the state wouldn't give it to them, but it's just not a good look.
Any additional comments? from the public?
I'm not sure how this works, but I'm
State
Amy,
name
I'm
and
Amy
address.
Johnson. I am with Sidner at Serena. My husband is Kent Johnson, who is the owner of Set LLC. The address is 1558 East Military. And Randy Sinclair is here as well. She's the director of marketing with Set LLC. So I think, you know, a little bit more context around why Set LLC is involved with the Sidner Ice Arena. I'm happy to answer any of those questions. It is owned by the YMCA. The building is. Set LLC is the operating company. And it was made in, you know, a close decision with the Y that was not something that they could manage anymore. Otherwise, it would not be moving forward. And so the ice was really important to a lot of people. That's why we saved it. The liquor license is really focused on, to answer Steve's questions, it is focused on Midland games and tournaments. It will be heavily regulated and locked up during those times. I have young kids. I totally understand that, but it's very much a lot of different, if you've gone to any ice arenas, I've gone to probably hundreds at this point. And it's a very common revenue generator, and running an ice rink is not something that makes a lot of money. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Councilman Jensen?
Just so we're clear about, are you saying that the alcohol sales are only going to occur during Midland games?
Midland games and other tournaments. So we often host, there's probably a couple tournaments that bring about 18 different teams to Fremont from all over the Midwest, from Minnesota, Chicago. And a lot of those, you know, folks will just have beer and alcohol for sale during those tournaments.
So if we would recommend a stipulation that the alcohol sales would only occur during Midland games and tournaments, you would have no problem with that?
Correct. I mean, yeah, that's fine.
Councilwoman Ganem?
No, in fact, I know I looked at number 6C, alcoholic beverages, set times and certain events.
Mhm.
So the tournaments don't include young children.
And the players are young children. And I will tell you that people are walking places to go have alcohol other places.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Councilman Vaughn?
My only question or possible concern was with the ownership of the facility remaining under the YMCA's umbrella. Would their, national organization have any objection, and would they have any,
Part of the agreement with the Y and the board, we did meet with the board of the Y and they did approve to move forward with the liquor license. That would be a question, for the Y if they have talked to their parent organization, but the Fremont YMCA Board of Directors has approved it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilwoman Lathrop?
So I do know that there's a couple doors that access the YMCA as well as going into the ice arena.
Yep. Those will
What
be,
happened?
the key card access is being fixed, so that won't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll
those
no
would
longer be able
locked
to,
during- okay.
correct.
Okay.
And in general, just because we're operating the rink and the Y.
Separately.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That settles my mind a little bit.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yep.
Okay. Councilman Von Baron, did you have something? No? Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Additional comments from the public?
And my name is Randy Sinclair, and I am Director of Marketing for Set LLC. I just wanted to touch on the questions about the games and the tournaments. We will have it in maybe more of a stipulation, could be if you're considering that it stays within, we have a different area that it could be served out of, away from the general concession area that would be behind an actual room with doors and a window that would only be able to be sold out of that, or if you're inside that space as well. As far as the games go, games for the Fremont Flyers tournaments and the Midland hockey games as well. I think that's what we would like to do. I wanted to just clarify that it wouldn't be sold during practices on a random Tuesday when there isn't a game. It would be for games only, not tournaments. So it wouldn't just be at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public on this item?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
I'll close the, you have a comment, question for
just-
the applicant?
Yeah.
Would the applicant be willing to answer another question, please?
That's fine. Just to clarify, is the liquor available in the arena itself during the games and during the tournaments?
Yes. So when you walk into Seidner, there's a lobby and there is a concession window on the west side. There are doors to enter the rink, the ice. And then once you enter the ice, there will also be a concession window inside the ice rink as well. If you were to go further west, walk further west, there's like the party room area that is just an event space. And that is where we would open up a window for the liquor to be sold out of. We haven't really decided if it would be only sold out of that room and the concession space just for staffing purposes. If we only had X amount of staff that could sell or that would be working, that we would, you know, keep it at the concession rather than splitting up the staff for concession and booze. So we have options there. And I think that if you were going to consider making a stipulation to our liquor license, if we could ask for that rather than taking away it being sold at games, because really matter of fact is that we don't host enough tournaments to justify only serving it at tournaments and Midland games. Whereas, you know, we'll have a Fremont Flyer youth hockey game, you know, maybe every weekend. And we would like to be able to sell it at those events as well, not just the tournaments. To justify generating the revenue, I think that we would have to do the games, the tournaments, and the Midland games.
But just to be clear, it'll have, you will need it to be available at some of the youth events to justify the license, correct? Economically.
Sure. I mean, it's new for us, so I would think, yes. Yes.
Okay, I'll now close public comment. Additional comments from council. Councilman Jensen.
I guess I would speak to this that, as many of you know, I have frequented the Big Red Keno before. And you go in there on a Saturday morning and it is full of those teams. It's full of people bringing they're there for kids, for tournaments, for their soccer, baseball, flag football, every Saturday morning it's full. I don't think allowing this there is going to be of any problem myself.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I think the only thing that troubles me is that when the Y nationally has, of course, a family pro-youth image, and that basically is their primary mission. And when parents send their children here for tournaments to the Y, I'm not sure they're going to be expecting liquor to be served and alcohol to be available. Based on that, I have a lot of, I understand the economics of it, but when we have to let economics go that far, I think it's important to understand the statement that we're sending to parents and children and to outlying communities and the people that are going to be using this compared to the image that we're trying to project and all the millions of dollars that have been poured into the Y by Fremont to project that exact image. And this seems to contradict that. My motion would be to recommend that it not be. I could approve Midland games with it. I understand the economics, but beyond that, I would like to make a motion that we limit it to Midland games. and exclude youth events.
Before I get to that motion, I do have additional comments. Councilwoman Ganem.
I guess I would concur with certainly my colleague there too. And Mothers Against Drunk Driving, if you have those young kids and people are sending their children up here, we're setting a role model with the adults. And I guess I am having a hard time breaking that, the YMCA from the Sidner activities, the national organization. I will second your motion.
Okay, I have one more comment before I get to the motion. Councilwoman Lathrop.
So my kids were very involved with all kinds of sports growing up. And I never personally drank when they were involved in any of those events. However, I can attest that there were parents who were at the events and who did partake in alcohol. I never saw anything bad happen in those instances. So I do think that if they want it, they're going to go someplace and get it. A lot of times with the kids' tournaments and things like that, the parents are there with the kids. So they're not just sending kids for those tournaments. They are present. And I guess at that point, it's kind of an adult choice. My problem was if that door wasn't locked and they were able just to wander into the YMCA. And also this, yes, the YMCA owns the property, but it's a different entity running the ice arena now. So there is that separation between the two. So I guess I would support it.
Councilman Horner.
I've got a question for council on this one. As the motion is put right now, what happens with a yes vote and what happens with a no vote?
The resolution, the way it's written, is for approval. So I think it would be best to do motion to amend the resolution to include no recommendation with a stipulation that liquor only be sold at Midland.
I could support that, yes.
So that the amendment would be changing the resolution, read that way, and then depending on how that vote goes, we'll vote on the resolution. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. See, no other comments. Councilmember Von Baron, if you're okay with that motion from council.
Yes, that's fine, as stated.
Okay. Councilwoman Ganem, are you a second to that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll vote on the amendment then to approve with the stipulation they only are served at Midland games.
Motion fails 2-6.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion. We approve the resolution as is.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-1 again.
Moving on to the consent agenda, all items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Any items from the public to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Councilman Horner.
So moved.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion Hearing 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to unfinished business. Item 20 is ordinance 5683 to annex property generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road and the BNSF Railroad associated with the request for Hills Farm Addition Final Plat. This would be for second reading. We'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is the second reading of the request to annex the property for the Hills Farm First Edition residential development. The plat and the subdivision agreement were conditionally approved at the last meeting. State statute requires 3 readings for an annexation. Third reading will be at the next meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Councilman Horner.
You know, is there any reason that we couldn't suspend rules and move this to third reading?
Yes, state statute requires we hold 3 readings.
Okay. Any other questions on this from council with staff? Thank you. Anybody here to speak on this item on the annexation? Okay, seeing none, any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
If no other comments, motion to approve and hold second reading.
Councilman Sukram?
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-1, Mayor.
Okay. Of second reading.
Ordinance in the city of Fremont, Nebraska, annexing by voluntary petition property composed of a portion of tax lot 59 in the southwest quarter of section 25, composed of a portion of tax lot 56 and a portion of tax lot 57 in the southeast quarter of section 26, and composed of a portion of tax lot 1 to a portion of tax lot 2 in the northeast quarter of section 35, composed of a portion of tax lot 3 and a portion of tax lot 18 in the northwest quarter of section 36. All located in the township 17 north of HGP 6 PM Dodge County, Nebraska, generally located southeast of Hills Farm Road, BNSF, setting the corporate limits to the said real estate right to the ordinance conflict with
Councilman Jensen.
Can the record show I intended to vote yes on that?
Yes.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Yeah, we'll correct the record on that. Okay, held second reading. We'll go ahead and move on to item 22, which is ordinance 5684, adopting changes in state statute affecting retirement benefits for firefighting personnel. This would be for second reading.
And I'm stepping in for Jennifer McDuffie, who actually we left on vacation today. This is second reading of an ordinance. We are simply bringing our ordinance related to firefighter retirement up to the most recent Nebraska statutes that were passed in the last legislative session. I'll take it, and we are asking you to consider suspending the rules and placing it up.
Okay. Questions for staff? Councilwoman Ganem.
Well, I do support our police and our firemen, but I do have several questions about this ordinance. First, this change is a result of an unfunded mandate from the Nebraska legislature and our governor. Is that correct? Okay. The second I'd like to make is the League of Municipalities said this is the largest unfunded mandate on cities in 30 years. Mayor Spellerberg, since you serve on the League's executive committee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Finally, I just want to make note that today the Nebraska legislature and the governor are discussing property tax reform. And they are indicating that cities are overspending, that we spend too much. And they support a 0% lid increase on cities at the same time that they're passing unfunded mandates onto Nebraska cities, like Fremont. That's hypocritical, that's unreasonable, and that's unfair. And we need to talk to our state legislatures. and the governor probably. But it just hits me wrong. I think they deserve it. I just think it's the wrong way of doing it. We needed to do it in negotiations as the process allows. Thank you for answering my questions.
Additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
Just a general comment, kind of echoing Ms. Ganem's statements, because all the things that are potentially going to come out of Lincoln here very soon could have a lot of impact in our community. So it makes me a little bit weary. I don't think we have any choice in this matter, but I still want to state it for the record that I'm concerned.
Additional comments? Okay. Okay, anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Additional comments from council on this? Councilman Vaughn?
If no other comments, motion to approve and hold second reading.
Councilwoman Ganem?
From the motion.
Cast your votes to hold second reading.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Have second reading.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for firefighters to subscribe to adopt a retirement committee to create funds to authorize a levy to exclude certain contributions from budget limitation provisions, to provide an operative date, repeal all ordinances and resolutions or parts of thereof in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication and effective date of this ordinance on second.
Councilman Vaughn?
Make a motion to suspend the rules and hold third and final reading.
Councilman Jensen?
And I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have final reading.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for firefighters as prescribed, to adopt a retirement committee to create funds, to authorize a levy to exclude certain contributions from budget limitation provisions, provide an operative date to repeal all ordinances or resolutions or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication and effective date of this ordinance. Final reading.
Cast your final vote. Ordinance 5684.
It's approved 8-0.
Item 23 is ordinance 5685, adopting changes affecting the retirement benefits for police personnel. This again would be for second reading. Is there any additional staff comments? Okay, no additional comments from staff. Any comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
If no comments, motion to approve and hold second reading.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll address that motion. There's a motion to have second reading. Councilman Jensen?
And I will second.
Okay. Cast your votes for second reading.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have second reading.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for police officers as prescribed, to appoint a retirement committee to create funds, to authorize a levy to exclude certain contributions from budget limitation provisions, provide an operative date to repeal ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and provide for publication and effective date of this ordinance on second.
Councilman Vaughn?
I'll again make the motion to suspend rules, hold third and final reading.
Okay, Councilman Jensen?
And second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have final reading.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to establish a retirement system for police officers as prescribed, to appoint a retirement committee to create funds, to authorize a levy to exclude certain contributions from budget limitation provisions, provide an operative date to repeal ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication and form and effective date of this ordinance. Final reading.
Cast your final vote for ordinance 5685.
Motion carries 8-0.
All right, moving on now to new business. Number 24, resolution 2024-176, awarding the agreement to Civil Solutions LLC for the design and engineering services of the Broad Street resurfacing project, consisting of resurfacing and improvements on Broad Street from 4th Street to 23rd Street. Of Troy Shaven, give our report.
Troy Shaven, acting city engineer. This is for, like the mayor said, the overlay of Broad Street from 4th Street north to 23rd Street. We received 4 proposals. Civil Solutions had a complete proposal with the lowest cost of $58,785. This is a overlay project. I've had some questions. This is not widening. This is not changing storm sewer or anything like that. It's simply a 2-inch mill, come back with an asphaltic overlay similar to what they're doing on First Street right now. I can take any questions. Okay.
Questions? Councilman Vaughn.
Troy, I'm not sure if this is directly aimed at you, but I think that we desperately need to get some sort of a truck ordinance figured out before we would have this investment from the state that we don't have to pay for, and we don't let it get tore up in short order. So I'd ask for your help with that.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, seeing none, any additional comments from council? Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I just echo Councilman Bond's concerns about truck traffic. I've had a number of communications with residents, business owners, and clearly there's some, I'm not sure what it is, but there is something that needs to be done with the truck traffic. That is an issue we need to sort out.
Okay. Any additional comments? If not, I would take a motion on this item. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-176.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
Now, item 25 is resolution 2024-182, approving the proposal of E&A Consulting Group to complete the engineering for 23rd Street improvements. I'll have staff report.
Troy Shaven, acting city engineer. This is for improvements to 23rd Street, along 23rd in relation to growth and the school development, the Deer subdivision. It is 3 right turn deceleration lanes if you're driving east on 23rd, and an extension of 3 left turn lanes if you're driving west on 23rd, at Luther, at Deer's Crossing, which is the middle drive that goes directly into the school, and then at Deer's Parkway, which is the furthest on the east side. Originally, this project was scheduled for 2025. The school indicated they'd like it done sooner in order to expedite the process. We asked TNA for a proposal. They were the company that did the internal plans. They have the traffic study. They have all the information, all the drainage information. They have all the surveying done. Sending the proposal to them will probably save, I would say, 2 to 4 weeks in the process. They submitted a proposal. Original cost estimates showed the engineering to be at about $380,000 to $400,000. Their proposal was $330,000. So it's under what the original estimate was on the engineering. So staff is recommending accepting their proposal for the engineering on the project. I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Vaughn.
For legal, are we clear to do this without putting out for bid? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions from council? Councilwoman Lathrop.
This is probably a very ridiculous question, but should we be concerned that they did not have our correct address on there and that they have a California zip code?
Or should you be more concerned that I didn't catch that? I guess I'll leave that for Travis. Is that-
Okay, any other questions? Right. Thank you, Troy, for your work on these last two items and the urgency that you've had, and appreciate your work very much. Okay, I'll open up to the public. Any comments from the public on this? Okay, any additional comments from council? Take a motion, Councilwoman Ganem.
I move we approve resolution 2024-182 that the city council approves the proposal of E&A Consulting Group.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 26 is resolution 2024-183, amending the Business Improvement District Board, the operational policy to allow board members to serve on additional city boards.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is kind of related to our next item, the creative district. There's a couple of board members who need to serve on the creative district board. We're currently board members of the Business Improvement District. The current operational manual, it says city officials aren't allowed to, city officials serving on the BID are not to serve on any additional boards. They took action for the meeting on July 16th and asked the city council make a change to allow members to set on more than one city board. So that's why we had this item before you tonight. One issue of note is that, when this operational policy was approved, and with BID being adopted going forward, we're looking to make ordinance and codify this in our code. And so it expects to see that in the future, and then that will give us an opportunity to kind of look at this, review it with the BID board, and then bring it back to city council board. BID advises. You have answered questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this? Okay, any comments from the public on this item?
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I appreciate the fact that Business Improvement District might want to have representation on the new board that's being approved, the new council, et cetera. The creative district makes probably good sense. But I would, and I appreciate the fact that the clerk brought up the fact that when the policy for handling the Business Improvement District Board and their policy was created back in January of 2022. And it said at the time, this is to be reviewed and later incorporated in Section 10 of the Municipal Code in 2024. It's been 2.5 years, and what was passed by the council relative to the BID's policy has yet to make it to code. Had it made it to code, this would be a code change tonight, requiring multiple readings, not a change of policy. That's my first issue. It's really a procedural one. The second concern that I would raise is that, and you'll see this even when you get into the next agenda item, there are times when members are put on boards and commissions and they become non-voting. Why is that? Conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest differences. In the past, we've had people apply to be on different boards in this community. Some were fairly prominent citizens in Fremont, and they were denied the opportunity because they couldn't serve on multiple boards. For example, the Housing Commission and the Planning Commission simultaneously. One might say, why? Well, to the extent that you're trying to make sure that you don't have conflicts, that you share responsibility, that you take broad community input, I think it's important that you use as broad a scope as you can in putting people on the boards and commissions. I don't have necessarily any objections to a BID member being on the Creative District Council. That's not my issue particularly. But I do think you need to be really cautious about giving a blank check relative to you can serve on anything and everything. There was quite some consternation when Councilman Ellis was on city council and participating in the BID. As a matter of fact, I think he was BID president. There was a push to get him off of that committee and off of that council as a seated council person. Could you, if you remove this language, ratify that position that we had in the past? Several of you are appointed to different boards and commissions, Airport Authority, Library Board. You are appointed as a liaison, but you don't get a vote. If you undo this policy carte blanche, I guess I would question as to whether or not BID members would get to vote on anything and everything relative to appointments that they would have. An extreme example, and I don't know if this could happen, but if you're on the BID, could you get yourself appointed to the LB 840 committee and assign funds relative to grants and et cetera? Would that be a conflict of interest? Could you be on the housing board when you have housing in the business improvement district? Could you serve on that board? I just raise these questions for you when you think about whether or not you would authorize everything tonight for BID members to participate in, or whether you would just give credence to the fact that someone could serve on the creative district for now. And you can sort this out when you eventually get this into city code. It should have been put into city code, as I said, 2.5 years ago, at least in 2024, and it hasn't happened. It's kind of unfortunate when those things don't happen because city code does take 3 readings and these kinds of things tonight don't. I think that's unfortunate. So we need to be more diligent in following through with what we do, relative instructions that were in the resolution that was passed by the council when the BID policy was adopted. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this item? Okay, come back to council comments on this. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I'll just say to Mr. Yerger's concerns, I know there is a kickoff meeting for the UDC board early next month, early in August, and I will bring those concerns to that.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I asked some of these same questions to legal prior to the meeting. This is one of those that's a tough one to discern because I don't know that it's been abused. But it's one of those things that it's good to think about. And are there potential conflicts in the city with positions and other boards? And could we get to a situation where another individual has undue influence? We have so many boards and commissions within the city that it's really hard to separate those and try to isolate one concern. I know we probably have some firewalls. For example, Mayor Spellerberg has the discretion of who he might nominate for a committee, and that's probably a good firewall. But I think my first question on this one was, is this just a creative district position? But especially in light of the original wording that says board members shall hold no other municipal office, and now all of a sudden the gate should be being thrown wide. I don't know that that's bad, but I don't think any of us have a real handle on how this should be or could be maneuvered. I think it's something we need to think about as a city. Just give it some thought to try to keep it from becoming a problem.
Councilman Horner.
I just wanted to add my thoughts to this. I was a commissioner and had to step down, and I understood that. I didn't like it, but I understood it. Kind of wanted to continue to serve in that capacity. I really liked being on the housing commission. That was a great noble cause. But anyways, I think I personally believe we have some good stopgap measures right now. Short time I've been on the council, I have abstained from votes because I had a known conflict of interest. And I think that, I think with a good ethics policy in place, those things should be addressed. I think we do have multiple ways to address that, but I also think that, we have those things in place. And so as this ordinance is being considered, maybe that's a good place to address those issues through the ordinance change if that were to occur.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Well, I certainly echo my colleagues' thoughts here too. There are boards that have direct impact with BID. Creative District is one. In order to be strong, Creative District and BID should know what each other is doing because it definitely helps the downtown. There may be another board or another one created that would have direct impact with downtown development. And so I wouldn't want to limit just to Creative District if there is another one develop or another board that would be helpful for downtown.
Councilman Jensen.
I just want to clear up something legal. This is to approve to amend the Business Improvement District Board operational policy only. Is that not correct? That's the only thing we're changing?
Correct, yeah. Right now, that's all.
Councilman Vaughn.
I'll just say in the greater context that we've kind of gotten into, aside from the actual issue at hand, it's a call to arms for the public. We wouldn't be doing this if we had enough people that would volunteer for these boards. So please step up, help be a part of the solution.
Thank you, Councilman Vaughn. I guess I'll just talk a little bit about it. Yes, it is my job to appoint members to the over 17 different boards and commissions in the city. And I really do the best I can to, first of all, these are volunteer positions. People, are giving of their time to the boards with a Fremont mindset and are, it is a calling to do that. And like Mr. Horner said, if you serve on council, you have to come off the board. And so I have done the best I can to keep up with Tyler's help. When everybody needs to, when appointments come up and the different qualifications on the boards and finding people that, are going to be willing to serve and do that. So I'll just plug Tyler for keeping me straight with all that. And as we absolutely, as Mr. Vaughn said, if you're interested in serving on a city board, please, there's a form online and we definitely take that into consideration and appreciate your willingness to do that. So. Right. There's again, this is for the operational policy for the BID. So Councilman Vaughn.
If no other comments, motion to approve.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Resolution 2024-185 approving the Creative Council bylaws. Staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Angie Olson, Grant Coordinator. As you're aware, in May of 2023, the Fremont Creative District was certified as a Nebraska Creative District by the Nebraska Arts Council. And to keep that project moving forward, we're creating the Creative Council to implement the strategic plan and just see projects in the future. And tonight in front of you is the bylaws for that group. And I am here to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the council? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay. Additional comments from council? If there are, I'd take a motion to approve the Creative Council bylaws. Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, just make a comment. I'm happy to make the motion. Just reading through it, kind of in line with the last item that we discussed. They mentioned it's a minimum of 5 members on their board from 7 potential organizations. They might want to give some thought to You know, could 5 be from one organization or whatever? It's a fine point, but they might want to give some definition to that. But beyond that, I will make a motion to approve this resolution.
Okay, Councilman Sukram.
I would second that.
Okay. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 28 is ordinance 5687 to repeal the 2017 National Electric Code and local amendments and adopt the 2023 National Electric Code and local amendments. We'll have staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Mark Bird, Chief Building Inspector. March 11, 2024, Governor Pillen signed LB 716. The bill requires the state electrical board to be governed by the minimum standards set forth in the 2023 National Electric Code. As a result, Craig Phelan, Director of the State Electrical Division, required all jurisdictions to adopt and comply with the new rules by August 1st, 2024, or as soon as practical thereafter. On June 27th, Fremont's Building Code and Advisory Appeals Board met to discuss the proposed adoption of the updated codes and local amendments. The board voted 6-0 to approve the recommendations. On July 22nd, Fremont's Planning Commission met to discuss the proposed adoption of the code and amendments. The commission voted 7-1 to approve the recommendations. There's minimal to no effect on the fiscal impact of these regulations, as we already deal regularly with contractors to interpret the existing and new regulations. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Can you give us an idea of some of the major changes from 2017 to 2023 and then what local amendments that we're making, just so that that's clear?
Well, first of all, there were 2 code cycles that have passed since 2017. So there was the 2021 cycle, and now this is the 2023. So we have 2 versions. Most of the amendments have been regulatory in nature, change item B to item D, just kind of housekeeping, several amendments. There's some of the items get technical, but overall, I wouldn't say there's any real major changes. There's one that we had a comment from a builder where they require change in the location of electrical outlets in kitchen islands and peninsulas. Whereas before you could have an outlet on the side of a peninsular outlet, and now the changes require that the outlets be installed in the countertop or above the countertop. And the reason for that is when cords hang over the side of a countertop to plug in, say, a crock pot, and the kids go by and they catch or a person catches themselves on the cord, it can pull the crock pot over. And so they've done that change for safety. But as an alternative, what the code has allowed is that if you don't want to install the outlet at the time of construction in the countertop, because that was the concern, is that it would be more technical to have to drill into a countertop. Now the code just requires that there be a rough in underneath the cabinet. So at some future time, there would be an electrical connection handy right there for some future owner to be able to install that in the countertop. So that's example of one change. There's several of the changes in our local amendments were left over. I was able to find clear back into the 1980s or 1990s, some of our original amendments or amendments that were still in the code. This 2017 code had, as the codes evolve every 3 years, many of those amendments that we had in our local code have already been addressed by national codes. And so they were just redundant. They weren't required because the code has already changed to reflect some of our local amendments. One amendment that we are adding is that whenever you have the code, we're trying to clarify one comment in the code where soft case wiring is required to be protected from physical damage. So when you have a plastic flexible wire that runs up the side of the wall, the code says that should be required to be protected from against physical damage. What we've done is we've added a sentence that defines that wherever wire is required needs protection from physical damage or is 96 inches or less above the finished floor. So we decided that anything 8 foot above the floor or below 8 foot below the floor should be protected. That's been enforced by the state electrical inspectors as a policy for several years. They always require that wire to be covered, but there's a lot of discussion back and forth between electricians and city inspectors on whether or not that 8 foot should be enforced because they think it's kind of an interpretation. So we just wanted to clarify. For years, that's been the standard practice, even more restrictive in Omaha. Sarpy County, several counties in the area have always required that 8 foot. We didn't have that in Fremont, so I felt we could add that 96-inch restriction, and that would clarify that everybody just knows what needs to be covered. And that's a finished floor, so if there's wiring in a crawl space or some area without a finished floor, that requirement wouldn't apply.
Those are the major changes.
Yeah,
Mark, that just,
yeah.
then that's good.
I have 2 books this
I'm
that
sure
changes.
that's a loaded
but,
question, so I just wanted
yeah.
to clarify.
Sorry, I guess I should have anticipated.
Thank you for those, offering that information, because it gives us an idea of all the intricacies that goes into the code too. So, and how much there is to work with. So
If it helps, these codes, before they get passed nationally, they're debated nationally. People like Home Builders, National Home Builders Association, all have several months to offer input. Engineers, architects, home builders, everybody gets a chance at input before they make these codes. And then Nebraska is requiring that we adopt them anyway, so we don't have a lot of local say. We have the ability to make the code tougher, but they generally do not allow us to make exceptions and make the code less safe than what nationally is required.
thank you. Are there any other comments from council on this item? Okay, thank you for your report. Is there any comments from the public on this? Okay, additional comments from council. Councilman Jensen?
If there's no additional comments, I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 5687.
Councilman Sukram?
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Have first reading of this ordinance.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, chapter 9 of the Fremont Municipal Code regulating the governing conditions of maintenance of all property, building and structures, repealing all the ordinances, parts of ordinances, applicable to it. Providing for such building, stating clause, and the Sabbath effective date on the first reading.
Right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item 29. It's resolution 2024-187, authorizing the mayor to execute the, yes? Is there? Did I miss that? Okay. Is there a request from staff to have final reading on the last item?
Yeah, the director has asked that we comply by August 1st. He did say he was okay with a later date, as long as it was in process and moving through the process. But if you wanted to waive the second, third reading and just, or whatever the process is, to just adopt it tonight, that'd be fine. The state would be happy. And then we'd be done with the matter.
Okay, all right. I'll open it up to council on that. Councilwoman Lathrop, motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final reading.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. You're up next in the queue, so Councilman Jensen.
And I was,
All right, cast your votes.
Motion carried 8-0, Mayor.
We'll have final reading.
Ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending chapter 9 of the City of Fremont Municipal Code, regulating the governing conditions and maintenance of all property, building structures, repealing all other ordinances and conflict therewith, providing a severability and saving clause, and establishing effective date and final reading.
Okay, cast your final vote in ordinance 5687.
Ordinance is approved 8-0, Mayor.
All right, now moving on to item 29 is resolution 2024-187, authorizing the mayor to execute the purchase agreement with RVR Bank for the Police and Communications Center facility. This is a really an exciting evening to be able to bring this agreement forward. And so before I get to our staff presentation as mayor, I just want to go through kind of what got us here to this point. Kind of all the work, all the meetings, all the history kind of behind this, and really just kind of give a good update to the public and and a really exciting look to the future on this new location for the police department. And so if you go back, this really does start back in 2011. We had an agreement with the county to start the 911 communications center. And that has been just a really, really good thing for both parties. But we realized at the time from going back that, hey, our facility was not meeting the needs of the Fremont Police Department. And so we did our first study back in 2014. That study was to assess the facility needs that we have. And this building is never meant to be a police station. So it was built initially back in 1966. We've occupied it since 1997. We've put Band-Aids and done pretty much everything we could do to keep it going the way it is, but it was never meant to be one. So there was a really big gap in the needs assessment. We then did another study back in 2015 to see what it would cost to renovate. We did another study in 2017 to update the cost to renovate. Then it was decided in 2018 to do another study to do a greenfield site for a joint law enforcement center at the Fremont Business Park. And through that, we, with the county, had about a 12-acre lot that we were in agreement with to build this. And in 2020, we took that measure to build it with the bond issue to the voters of the city and the county. At that point, the voters decided just about 1,000 votes, again, a difference between the city and the county, that they did not like that and want that proposal and did not want to move forward with that. So at that moment, we had to kind of go back to the drawing board within the city, as it had been all the way since 2011. We were at 2020. And we had to look and rally the city together to, number one, get a location, get the city behind the new facility for the new police department. And so we then had another study done, and you can tell I've been saying the word study a lot, in 2021 to look at different locations for a joint law enforcement center and so forth. We had meetings with the county here in 2021, a special meeting on January 11th of 2022. Then we had a special meeting, and there just was no consensus and a clear pathway to do that. And so basically at that moment, our urgency and the needs that we have for a new facility for the new Fremont Police Department, we as a city push forward to get a location and get the city ready to go to build our own police department, including the 911 dispatch center. And so through that effort, at that moment, we began evaluating, different sites within the city on what would work the best, what would meet the needs of the city, the growth of the city, the hiring, the future for the Fremont Police Department. And so we evaluated a lot of different sites throughout this process. And so basically what we came up with is what tonight is the proposed site that we're moving forward with. And I have up on my right is kind of a rendering of the area of the site for the new police station. And we worked with a architecture firm, AO Architects, that helped us make sure that we had a master plan behind the location, that there was thought given to the location, that it just wasn't here, we're going to put it here. It was a bigger vision for what this area of the city can really be in the future. And so that was really important for me, is that we had a wider vision, and that this site could really be a catalyst for this area of Fremont. And so we actually had multiple meetings with AO Architects. They came up with this rendering. We had meetings. We had a public open house where we showed this to the public. We met and sent out notices to meet with the surrounding property owners around this area that were impacted by this. They were at a meeting here at the city hall to be able to answer their questions. And so there was a time and a process to how this area of the community could develop in the future. And so so really it's a mix of bringing in John C. Fremont Park, a plan for the old station, development around this catalyst site, and really bringing this part of Fremont into our downtown area. And so that's really what this plan is going to give the city. And it's really a really proactive way for us to look at how we are going to develop this area in the future. So we went through that process. We have our partnership with RVR Bank, as they also expressed interest to be able to build a new bank facility and invest into that block as well. And so as we continued on working through this, we had hired Police Facilities Design Group this spring to begin the design of the building, which we are working through with Chief Elliott and Shelley Holzerland, our 911 dispatch communications director. And then so there really has, from the start of this plan, been the collaboration between so many different people, different groups. The city council has been informed through this process. This has been really, this is the future of our public safety facility for our police department. And it really needs to go up in a way where we can come together and we can rally behind that, because it is that important for them, and they need it. And it's been a very long time, and it's been long overdue. And I brought the studies with me because there's a lot of them. Okay. We're done studying this. It's time to make a decision, move forward, and give the facility they deserve, and for us to grow into the future, which this does, with a comprehensive plan around it. So with that being said, I'm very excited about this and for us as a city moving forward, and believe there's just a lot of opportunity. And again, it's a great location. It fits in within the civic part of our community. When you look at the auditorium, which we just renovated, the library, brand new library, City Hall, which we've added an elevator, which we've made improvements. This kind of fits into that civic city center of what our community has been, and to have it be right there, I think, and right next to John C. Fremont Park, bring that into into part of this plan. It gives us a great roadmap moving forward. But tonight we are voting on the purchase agreement, which is that first the biggest step is to get the facility for our men and women in blue. So I just wanted to give that background, and hopefully that was beneficial as we go through this tonight. So Travis, I guess I turn it over to you if you want to have any additional comments on the actual agreement. So
Thank you, Mayor. We did together term the purchase agreement with RVR Bank. They're a great partner to work with throughout this process, and what we ended up coming up with was $20.61 per square foot of the property. The size of the property we're purchasing has changed a little bit, but the total cost for that parcel, that piece will be the $1,074,425.11 cost that you see in the agreement. The agreement also has a provision where RVR Bank has agreed to raise the entirety of the property as it sits right now. So that includes the current bank that's there, the court where they had a the bank would, or that would be very difficult to excavate. And then the current home that's on the property, as well as all the concrete trees. And they're gonna take on that burden, and to help facilitate that process, the city has agreed to contribute up to 30% of the cost for that, which the maximum amount that the city would contribute would be $160,000. We think it's gonna end up being less than that for our contribution. The other conditions are there's going to be a signage plan proposal that'll go through our normal planning process, and a mutually agreed upon CCR's covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the property. And once those are reached, then we can close. And there is also a reference to TIF financing in the agreement. And really that reference just says the city will not unreasonably withhold approval of TIF, which puts the RVR Bank in the same position as any other applicant would be for TIF in the city. So those are the general terms, and other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Councilman Horner.
Mayor, I think at this point, what I would like to do is make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussion, real estate matters and negotiations, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Okay. Can I have the language, please? Is there a second? Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion on this executive session? Okay. Pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Cast your vote on that.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and negotiations for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to discussing real estate matters and negotiations. No official actions or votes will be taken during the executive session. We'll now move forward to the conference room for our executive session, and we'll come back out and address the item. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody here. Oh, wait, Mark.
All right, Councilman Vaughn, take a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Councilman Sukram.
Second.
Cast your votes. All right, we're on to item 29. I've read the item, given a report. Staff has visited. We'll move on to comments from the public. So.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Chuck Johansson. I serve as CEO of RBR Bank, 1005 East 23rd Street. I reside at 815 North Howard Street. And on behalf of RBR Bank and our Board of Directors, we are very, very excited and share the enthusiasm for the partnership with the city. We really appreciate having the opportunity to set in and contribute with regard to the master plan conversation for the area. We're very excited about that as well. We believe, and Mayor, you've used the word catalyst, believe that these two projects could be a real catalyst for this area, and also very important to the revitalization of the downtown district. We as a bank plan to make a $2 to $3 million investment on the corner of Military and Main. We are currently in the design phase, working through that. We believe the footprint will complement the new police and community center facility. Our bank ownership has been and will continue to be very committed to the Fremont community. Through this process, really appreciate the opportunity to visit with the mayor, staff, working through hopefully a purchase agreement where we're at right now. Again, we're super excited and very optimistic as to what the future holds. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Johansson on this? Thank you. Any additional comments from council on this item? Oh, I'm sorry, the public.
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I couldn't be more excited that the city of Fremont is finally getting around to a new police station. A lot of time, effort involved, as the mayor outlined. Appreciated Mr. Johansson's comments with regards to the bank's position and what they intend to do to be involved in this project for the betterment of Fremont. I won't belabor my comments in that regard, because certainly I am all in favor of the project as whole. It's coming out where I thought it should have been for a long time. But I do have some concerns as a citizen, as a former council member, as to what I read here and what I didn't read relative to what you're acting upon tonight. And I felt inclined to at least speak to those items, primarily because in the staff report, there were 4 conditions listed relative to this purchase agreement. One of those in particular was the use of TIF. And when I got back to the resolution of relative to this item, I noticed that there was no identification or disclosure of the use of TIF. One of my problems as I served on city council in your position was the lack of transparency from time to time, intentional or unintentional. When you find something in the staff report, you don't find it in the resolution. To me, that was a cause for alarm. Why isn't it there? The staff report is not part of the resolution. When you vote on a resolution, it is the resolution language that controls what you write in the staff report, whether the staff report's right, wrong, or indifferent, isn't a legal document. I know council is implied in the past. When I was on council, staff report speaks as the resolution. I've never agreed with that. Don't think it agrees with that. But what was more important to me was when I found in section 12F that specifically the city is agreeing in this resolution to assist in filing the TIF application. Again, if they want to file for a TIF application, they're certainly free to do that. But the city, I think, is not the appropriate party here. As I understand it, the City Development Authority is the agency that receives TIF applications. They can initiate perhaps, but typically they receive, then it goes to the Planning Commission, comes back to the council before you ever act. So I don't know what it means when the city agrees to assist. I don't think the city should be making that agreement in this agreement. The city could receive, or it could do other kinds of things, acknowledge that TIF will be filed, but you actually are making a more assertive statement to weigh in and not make an unreasonable withhold of TIF. What is unreasonable withhold of TIF? There's a process for TIF. It takes developmental filings, it takes approvals, it takes public comment, it takes a lot of those things. Anywhere along the way, you might have opposition. I'm not saying there would be, but you could. The point is, you shouldn't be making a commitment at this juncture to do anything as a city council. That's my opinion. You can ask your lawyer, and maybe you've already asked him, but I don't think the city council should agree to do anything relative to this at this time until documents are filed through the proper state forms. There's a procedure for TIF filings, and it's been used in the past. It should be used here. Probably will fly with no problems, but there are protocols and you should follow them. Putting this in as an item F that says that the city agrees to assist in and that you won't reasonably withhold it, I think is a bit of an overstatement at this juncture. You should either tone down the language or remove that at this juncture, knowing full well that in your conversations with the bank that TIF is something that they intend to file. It probably will be accepted, but you shouldn't be making that commitment in writing as a part of this proposed document, especially when you left it out of the resolution. You should be transparent with the public. If you're going to bury it in the document for purchase, then you should at least disclose it in the resolution where you've listed the other conditions for purchase. You have the sign conditions, you have the conditional use permit. Well, why didn't you mention TIF? Was there a reason? I hope not. I hope it was just an oversight, but it needs to be in your resolution if you're going to sign on to it. Otherwise, you should not have it there. And item F, 12F should be modified so as to not lock in your position relative to the city being engaged in the filing of TIF. That needs to go through the Community Development Agency as a precursor. Doesn't go to you as council first. Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this item? Okay, we're back to council comments. Any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Von Buren.
Yeah, and we've had discussions like this about TIF in the past, and I'd just like to get, perhaps from my perspective, my understanding of TIF process is that it's fairly straightforward. In fact, I think in this case, this is probably the exact kind of thing that TIF was developed for, to renew areas like this. But can we as a city can we influence positively or negatively the TIF process? Is it not a fairly straightforward process? How might we conceptually, how might we influence it positively or negatively, just from my information?
No, sure. So this provision on TIF is treating the bank as we would treat any other applicant for TIF that would come before the city to start that process. It's not a condition to closing. The language in there is consistent with how we would treat any other applicant. So this doesn't bind the city to approving TIF. It doesn't give the city an extra obligation to review this application any differently. The city has and the Community Development Agency has a statutory process that it'll go through. And like you said, it is straightforward. And we'll make sure we comply with those.
So we're process.
A lot of times it's answering questions about where to submit your plan. Sometimes it's helping with a plan that is to conform with the comprehensive plan before it goes to the planning commission. There's general stuff that our staff does on a day-to-day basis to help developers in the city.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Well, it's kind of evident tax increment financing, or TIF, is not well understood by citizens or city council. So I would like to have the administration just explain briefly, if you can, how a project applies for TIF, and part of it's been answered through our last speaker there, and how the city determines whether business qualifies for TIF. Yeah.
So there would be the first step is to develop a development plan for the project, a redevelopment plan that would, the first step is actually to make sure the property is lighted and substandard, and that's already done. The next step would be to create a development plan, usually that's submitted by the developer with the assistance of the city in some regard to, like I said, getting compliant with a comprehensive plan. That process, that development plan itself goes to the planning commission to ensure compliance with our comprehensive plan. And in the meantime, the city will start negotiating with the developer on a redevelopment agreement. That redevelopment plan and agreement would eventually go to the Community Development Agency. So there are multiple public meetings that occur. The Community Development Agency will recommend to the governing body whether to approve that plan or not. And we'll go through a cost benefit analysis that'll go through factors such as the impact on the area, the impact on schools, the benefit for the city, both the infrastructure and the use of the property, and those factors that are statutorily laid out. CDA will conduct that analysis and then come before council.
Okay, there's quite a process before it gets back to us, and they're treated as any other project or business that comes up. And this project has been, as our mayor pointed out, studied and studied and studied. And it's been over a decade and we still haven't had any action on this. And so I too was very excited about it. People have questioned the cost, but we've looked at other sites and it would be more costly having the other sites that we were looking at. And by delaying it, it will be more costly because every time started out at $5 million, $7 million, $17 million. And if we wait another couple of years, it will go up again. So we're trying to do what's best for our police force and certainly our community. And thank you for the overview.
Councilman Horner.
Mayor, I was just going to say that if there are no other questions or comments, I would like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-187.
Councilman Sukram.
I will definitely second that.
Cast your votes. Councilman Jensen.
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Oh.